Goodbye to you, my trusted friend.
Some songs made you dance, some made you fall in love, and then there were the songs that scared you, haunted you, or left you staring at the ceiling long after the record stopped spinning.
My papa was a great old man. I can see him with a shovel in his hand. See,
if you grew up in the 1970s, you probably remember at least one of them. These are 10 songs that traumatized, or at least deeply unsettled, an entire generation of kids. And trust me, the further we go down this list, the darker it gets. Let's begin.
Timothy, another day's at end.
Number 10, Shannon, Henry Gross. There was something strangely unsettling about hearing a grown man sing so sadly about a dog.
Mama says she's tired again.
In 1976, Henry Gross released Shannon, a beautiful song inspired by the death of a beloved Irish setter. But for kids growing up in the 70s, it felt like something much bigger.
I hardly know what to say.
The soft acoustic guitar, the gentle melody, that aching voice, and the feeling that something precious had disappeared and wasn't coming back.
Papa were here, I'm sure he'd tell her.
The song was actually inspired by Carl Wilson of the Beach Boys, whose family had a dog named Shannon. Gross had met the dog and later learned that Shannon had died. That personal sadness became a hit record. For adults, it was touching. For kids, it was terrifyingly real. Because suddenly, you realized that the happy little world around you wasn't permanent. Pets could disappear. People could disappear. And sometimes, all you could do was remember them.
Just like the one in our backyard.
Decades later, many people who grew up in the 70s still remember exactly how Shannon made them feel. A beautiful song, with a heartbreak hiding underneath it. And this was only number 10.
She knows how much we really miss her.
my papa was a seat.
Number 9, Patches, Clarence Carter. If Shannon made you sad, Patches could break your heart. Released in 1970 by Clarence Carter, Patches tells the story of a young man who leaves home to find work, only to receive devastating news from his father.
One day, papa called me to his dying bed, put his hands on my shoulder, then in tears he said,
The story is simple. A poor family, a son trying to build a better life, a father growing older, and a final message that changes everything.
Patches, I'm depending on you, son.
Clarence Carter's soulful voice makes the story feel painfully personal. You don't just hear the song. You feel like someone is sitting beside you, telling you the worst news of their life.
2 days later, papa passed away, and I became a man that day.
For children, the message was difficult to understand, but the emotion, that was impossible to miss. It was one of those records that adults might play quietly in the background, while a kid in the next room slowly realized this song wasn't going to have a happy ending.
Sometimes I felt that I couldn't go on. I wanted to leave, just run away from home.
And that's what made it so unforgettable. Sometimes the songs that stay with us aren't the ones we fully understood as children. They're the ones whose sadness we understood years later. But the next song, this one was genuinely frightening.
I tried to do my best. It's up to you.
Laying here, looking at the ceiling.
Number 8, D.O.A, Bloodrock. Imagine being a kid in the 1970s, sitting in the back seat of a car, and suddenly hearing this on the radio. D.O.A by Bloodrock.
We were flying alone and hit something in the air.
The title alone was enough to make you nervous. Released in 1971, the song tells the story of someone witnessing the aftermath of a horrific airplane crash, and Bloodrock did not exactly make the story sound comforting.
Someone lays a sheet across my chest.
The eerie atmosphere, the disturbing lyrics, the slow, haunting build. It sounded less like a normal rock song and more like a nightmare you weren't supposed to be hearing.
The face beside me stopped, it's wholly bleeding.
And then there was the rumor. For years, stories circulated that people had supposedly passed out while listening to the song. Whether those stories were true or exaggerated, they only made the legend bigger.
He says, there's no chance for me.
For a generation raised on AM radio, this was the kind of song that could suddenly appear between two completely ordinary hits. 1 minute, you were listening to something catchy. The next, you were hearing a musical horror story. And if you were 8 years old, you probably weren't thinking about musical artistry. You were thinking, why is this song on the radio? But if that was unsettling, wait until you hear the story behind number 7.
God in heaven, teach me how to die.
She comes down from Yellow Mountain.
Number 7, Wildfire, Michael Martin Murphey. Some songs scare you because of what they describe. Others scare you because of what they leave you imagining. Wildfire was one of those songs.
They say she died one winter.
Released in 1975, Michael Martin Murphey's haunting ballad tells the story of a mysterious ghost horse and a woman named Wildfire.
In a blizzard, she was lost.
According to the story, she disappears into a blizzard, and the narrator is left wondering whether she will ever return. There is something almost dreamlike about the song.
On the dark, flat land she rides.
A cold winter night, a lonely cabin, a horse running through the snow, and somewhere in the darkness, a ghostly presence. For adults, it was poetic. For children, it could be downright terrifying.
She went calling wildfire.
Because the song never completely explains what happened. And that's exactly why it worked. Your imagination filled in the blanks. You could picture the snow. You could picture the horse. You could picture someone disappearing into the night, never to return.
So by the dark of the moon, I planted.
Wildfire became a major hit and remains one of the most memorable story songs of the 70s. But it left behind one unforgettable feeling.
She's coming for me, this I know.
The fear of being alone on a cold, dark night with something you couldn't explain. And now, we're heading into much darker territory.
And on a wildfire, we're both gonna go.
Number 6, Timothy, The Buoys. If you were a kid when Timothy came out, you probably had one question. What exactly happened to Timothy?
When they broke through to pull us free, the only ones left to say.
Released in 1971 by the Buoys, Timothy tells the story of 3 miners trapped underground after an explosion. 2 survivors escape, but Timothy doesn't.
Timothy, Timothy.
And then, the song gets very uncomfortable. The lyrics strongly suggest that the survivors resort to cannibalism to stay alive. Yes, this was a pop hit on the radio in the early 70s, and children were hearing it. The strange thing is, the song doesn't sound like a horror movie. The melody is catchy. The arrangement is almost playful, which somehow makes the story even more disturbing. You could be sitting in your living room, doing your homework, while this bizarre little song was playing in the background, and suddenly you realized, wait a minute, what happened to Timothy?
Timothy, Joe was looking at you.
The mystery was part of the song's power. Who was Timothy? Was Timothy even a real person? Or was the name chosen simply to make the story sound more innocent? Whatever the answer, the song became one of the strangest hits of the decade.
Timothy, God, what did we do?
And for many kids, it was the moment they discovered that a song could hide something incredibly dark behind a catchy tune. But number 5 takes us from disturbing to downright shocking.
Timothy, where on earth did you go?
He's on his way home from Candletop. Been 2 weeks gone and he thought he'd stop.
Number 5, The Night the Lights Went Out in Georgia, Vicki Lawrence. In 1972, Vicki Lawrence released a song that sounded like a Southern murder mystery, and it became a massive hit.
Andy Wollo said hello, and he said hi, what's doing, whoa?
The Night the Lights Went Out in Georgia. The story follows a woman whose brother is accused of killing a man named Andy. He insists he's innocent, but the town doesn't believe him.
Said, I'm your best friend, and you know that's right, but your young bride ain't home tonight.
And then, the truth comes out. The narrator reveals that the real killer was someone much closer to home.
That's the night that the lights went out in Georgia.
Someone you never expected. For kids listening to this song, the story was almost like a movie. A small town, a murder, a trial, a hanging, and a final twist that changes everything.
That's the night that they hung an innocent man.
But what made the song especially memorable was Vicki Lawrence herself. At the time, many people knew her primarily as a comedian and actress from The Carol Burnett Show.
Brother thought his wife must have left town, so he went home and finally found.
Then suddenly, she was singing one of the darkest story songs on the radio. The contrast was unforgettable, and the ending? It left a lot of young listeners sitting there thinking,
Where the Georgia Patrol wasn't making their rounds, so we fired a shot just to flag them down.
wait, what? The song wasn't just sad, it was a full-blown tragedy. And yet, we couldn't stop listening. Because sometimes the most powerful songs don't simply tell you a story.
Well, don't trust your soul to no backwoods southern lawyer.
They pull you inside it. And the next one might have been the first song that made an entire generation think about death itself.
See, little sister don't miss when she aims her gun.
Goodbye to you, my trusted friend.
Number 4, Seasons in the Sun, Terry Jacks. There are sad songs, and then there are songs that feel like saying goodbye to everything. Seasons in the Sun was one of those songs.
Learned of love and ABC, and skinned our hearts and skinned our knees.
Released by Terry Jacks in 1973, the song became an enormous international hit, but underneath its gentle melody was a devastating farewell.
We had joy, we had fun, we had seasons in the sun.
The narrator is saying goodbye to friends, to family, to the people who shaped his life. For a child hearing it, the lyrics could be confusing. Why is everyone saying goodbye? Why does this sound so final?
Goodbye, Papa, please pray for me.
And then, as you grew older, you understood. The song was adapted from an earlier French song, and Terry Jacks turned it into something that felt deeply personal.
Too much wine and too much song, wonder how I got along.
Its soft melody made the sadness even more powerful. It sounded almost beautiful enough to hide the darkness. But it couldn't, because every verse felt like another door closing.
When all the birds are singing in the sky.
Another memory disappearing, another goodbye. For many people who grew up in the 70s, Seasons in the Sun became connected to a very specific kind of nostalgia.
Goodbye, Michelle, it's hard to die.
Old houses, old photographs, people who were once young and are no longer here. And that's why the song still hits differently today.
The stars we could reach with your starfish on the beach.
When you're young, you hear a sad song. When you're older, you hear your own life in it. And we're not done yet. Because the final 3 songs are where this list becomes deeply personal.
But the hills that we climb, just seasons out of time.
Wait a little while from now, if I'm not
feeling any less sour.
Number 3. Alone Again, Naturally. Gilbert O'Sullivan. Alone Again begins almost quietly, and that's what makes it so dangerous.
In an effort to make clear to whoever what it's like when you're shattered.
Gilbert O'Sullivan released the song in 1972. At first, it sounds like a simple song about loneliness. Someone is abandoned. Someone is left alone.
My God, that stuff, she stood him up. No point in us remaining.
But then the story becomes darker, much darker. The narrator reflects on rejection, loss, and the death of his parents.
May as well go home, 'cause I did on my own.
For a child listening to the radio, those words could hit like a punch, because every child has the same secret fear. What happens if the people I love aren't here anymore?
Alone again, naturally.
Alone Again took that fear and put it into a beautiful melody. It became a huge hit, reaching number 1 on the Billboard Hot 100.
But as if to knock me down, reality came around.
But its success was almost ironic. Millions of people were singing along to a song about loneliness, and maybe that's exactly why it became so powerful.
Leaving me to doubt, talk about God in His mercy.
Because loneliness is something almost everyone understands, even if they don't talk about it. The older you get, the more the song changes.
It seems to me that there are more hearts broken in the world.
At 10 years old, it might sound sad. At 20, it might sound romantic. At 60, it can sound like a memory of everyone you've lost.
It is.
And if that isn't enough, the number 2 song on this list takes us somewhere even more devastating, into the middle of a real historical tragedy.
The legend lives on from the Chippewa down of the big lake they call Gitchagumi.
Number 2. The Wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald, Gordon Lightfoot. On November 10, 1975, the Great Lakes freighter Edmund Fitzgerald disappeared beneath Lake Superior.
When the gales of November came early.
All 29 men aboard were lost. There were no survivors. Gordon Lightfoot turned that tragedy into one of the most haunting songs of the decade.
As the big freighters go, it was bigger than most.
The Wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald. When the song came out in 1976, it wasn't simply another pop hit. It was a musical memorial.
When they left fully loaded for Cleveland.
A story about real men, real families, and a ship that vanished into one of the most dangerous bodies of water in America.
Could it be the north wind they'd been feeling?
For kids growing up in the 70s, the song could feel enormous. You could hear the wind in your imagination, the waves, the darkness, the ship struggling against the storm.
When supper time came, the old cook came on deck saying,
And then, silence. Lightfoot's storytelling made the tragedy feel almost cinematic. You weren't just listening to history. You were standing there, watching the storm.
"'Twas the witch of November come stealing."
The song became a major hit and one of Lightfoot's signature recordings. But its emotional power never depended on charts. It came from something much deeper: memory.
When afternoon came, it was freezing rain.
Every time the song played, 29 names seemed to come back to life. And that's why it still feels so haunting, because the song isn't really about a ship, it's about people.
And later that night when his lights went out of sight,
People who left home and never came back. And now, we arrive at number 1. The song that may not have scared you as a child, but became more frightening the older you grew.
Superior, they said, never gives up or did when the gales of November come.
Number 1. Cats in the Cradle, Harry Chapin. There are songs that frighten children, and then there are songs that frighten adults. Cats in the Cradle is both. Released by Harry Chapin in 1974, the song tells the story of a father and son. A father who is always busy, always working, always promising. Someday. Then, the boy becomes a man, and suddenly, the father wants to spend time with him. But now, the sun is too busy. Sound familiar? Chapin turned that idea into a story that millions of parents recognized, and millions of children eventually understood. Because when you're a child, you think your parents will always be there. You think there's always more time. But then you grow up. Life gets busy. Work gets harder. Years start moving faster. And one day, you realize the people who once waited for you are getting older. Cats in the Cradle changes. The song you heard as a kid becomes the song you finally understand as an adult. And suddenly, those lyrics don't feel like a story anymore. They feel like a warning. Because time doesn't wait. Not for your parents. Not for your children. Not for anyone. Harry Chapin's song became a major hit in 1974, but its message has lasted far longer than the decade that created it. And maybe that's why it belongs at number 1. Because the most frightening thing isn't always what happens to us. Sometimes, it's what we realize too late. That the moments we thought we had forever were disappearing. One Day at a 70s gave us songs about love, songs about freedom, songs about dancing until the lights came on. But it also gave us songs that followed us into adulthood, songs about loss, loneliness, death, regret, and the strange realization that childhood doesn't last forever. Maybe that's why these songs still feel so powerful today, because when you hear them again, you're not just hearing music. You're hearing the sound of an old radio in the living room, a record spinning on a turntable, a long drive with your parents, a house that doesn't exist anymore, or a person you wish you could talk to one more time. So now I'm curious, which song from the 1970s haunted you the most? Was it Cats in the Cradle, Seasons in the Sun, The Wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald? Or was there another song that should have made this list? Tell us your choice in the comments. Because sometimes, the songs that traumatized us as kids are the same songs that bring our memories back decades later. And if this list took you back to another time, I plenty more forgotten songs, old memories, and stories from the golden age of American music waiting for you. Until next time, keep the music playing. And never forget, some songs don't just live in the past, they live inside us.